working for you. This is the 23 News Update at 10.
Seldom in city council meetings does a yes vote potentially ruin a project, but we may have just witnessed that tonight at Rockford City Council. 23 News reporter Jacob Pearson tells us what council members voted on and why it puts the Barber-Colman redevelopment project in jeopardy.
Last month, the Rockford City Council approved a plan to redevelop the 26-acre Barber-Colman property, but the vote to begin construction has been hotly debated.
The history of the city, we've never had a PLA agreement for previous projects.
In a 7-6 vote, the Rockford City Council chooses to move forward with a private labor agreement, knowing this decision may kill the Barber-Colman redevelopment deal. The project now hinges on the inclusion of a PLA, which would guarantee Rockford laborers and unions would oversee the construction process. Alderman Jonathan Logeman voted in favor of the PLA, saying it would bring jobs to the area.
It's putting people to work, hundreds of $300 to $400 million project, putting thousands of people to work, both permanent and temporary jobs. We're going to keep these jobs local and have a local project.
Project developer Jay Jeffers is a Milwaukee-based company who wanted the ability to use workers from outside the state. The company said they would back out of the $430 million redevelopment if a PLA passed a council vote. Alderperson Jeff Bailey, who was just sworn in today, voted against the PLA.
It's about equality, fairness, valuing other people and what they bring to the table. And the PLA agreement is not going to accomplish that.
Bailey supports bringing in an outside construction team, which will help the city make connections.
We have to build relationships. We have to be given the opportunity.
In place of the Barber-Colman building, which has sat vacant for 20 years, the city plans to revitalize the property by adding residential, commercial, and multicultural uses to the site.
Thank you, Jacob. And the project developer, Jay Jeffers, originally bought the building site in October of 2021 for $500,000.